Hello, I'm Siri. Today we'll talk about the latest iPhone 12 news. Over the past few years, we've seen a few major developments with the iPhone. First, we had the removal of the iconic Touch ID button. Face ID was introduced alongside a thin-frame and all-screen design. Gesture navigation made it to iOS, and we finally got to see AMOLED screens on iPhones. Then, we got the large Max versions and some camera improvements. So, what does 2020 hold for us? Well, for one, we expect to see the iPhone 12 to have 5G. Also, a slight facelift is rumored to be in the works, as well as a fourth model variation. What else? Let's dive in all the latest rumors. Usually, we expect to see the iPhone lineup announced in early to mid-September. But the iPhone May 12th be delayed due to the viral pandemic, which has spread across the world. Reports are coming in that numerous factories in China were forced to close or slow down production. This will definitely hit many tech companies, Apple included. How much will the iPhone 12 be delayed by? The optimistic forecast states a few weeks. The worst-case scenario, a few months. Then, there's a recent report that Apple is working hard to ensure the iPhone 12 would land on time, but its future products might be delayed. A hot leak even suggests that Apple is stockpiling iPhone 12 parts hard, just to make sure it can meet demand in a timely manner. The notch has been a highly controversial topic ever since the iPhone X dropped in 2017. In order to make room for the front camera, the earpiece, and all the Face ID sensors, Apple had to make a cutout in what would otherwise have been a perfectly rectangular, edge-to-edge display. It's clear that the notch won't be staying for long. It is just a temporary fix until the technology evolves to the point where said sensors can either be hidden under the screen or made smaller so that they can fit tinier spaces. Well, the former is not happening, but the technology to at least shrink all of these sensors certainly is. Rumors, or wishful thinking, heavily suggest that the notch will be at least less prominent in 2020's iPhone 12. Some are even saying the sensors will be hidden in the iPhone 12 Pro's frame with no need for a notch at all. So, maybe the Pro will be notchless, while the regular iPhone will still have a cutout, albeit a smaller one. It has been said on multiple occasions now that Apple will be changing the iPhone's aesthetic just a bit. Instead of having rounded sides, it would switch to a frame with flat sides to match the look of the most recent iPad Pro. Some also call this move a callback to the iPhone 4's design language. That'll definitely freshen things a bit since the current design is 3 generations old by now. What about the back of the phone? The square-shaped chimney of a camera bump is making a comeback, and it's housing even more cameras this time around, as the long-rumored time-of-flight cameras might finally be making an entrance with the 2020 iPhones. Every new iPhone iteration brings along a new color. In 2019, the Pro line got a cool midnight green. In 2020, it's said that will be replaced by a navy blue option. This is not the first time we hear Apple thinking about going with blue, though that hasn't happened so far, excluding the iPhone XR and its selection of vibrant paint jobs. Triple cameras were all the hype in 2019, but where do we go from here? A combination of ultra-wide, wide, and telephoto lenses seems to cover pretty much everything a smartphone photographer might want or need, right? Well, time to start messing with augmented reality. A new rumor also says Apple is experimenting with a 64MP sensor this time around. Not to let Samsung run the second megapixel wars, Apple might be planning a huge resolution upgrade, as well as possibly a better zoom for its iPhone 12 Pro series. There has been no word on any type of periscope technology being worked on by Cupertino guys, so it's possible that Apple might be working on software-augmented zooming instead. The telephoto and ultra-wide cameras will be getting a small upgrade, too. Reportedly, they will be able to support night mode, a feature that is currently limited to just the main camera of the iPhone 11 series. Not only that, the ultra-wide camera of the iPhone 12 will have a 35% wider aperture, f1.6, which would let much more light hit the sensor. Rumor is, Apple will be adding the same LiDAR sensor on the back that the new iPad Pro has. This will probably be a feature exclusive to the Pro line. The super-powered time-of-flight camera, it'll be able to accurately scan the environment and objects around you, so you can interact with them in digital space, or vice versa. See how digital items will look in the real world through your viewfinder. It should also help with making even more convincing portrait mode shots. Apple has said time and again that it does believe that AR is the future, so we should soon see why and how that is. We are hearing that we might get a grand total of 4 main smartphone models, not counting their 5G counterparts. More on that later. These would have 5.4-inch and 6.1-inch displays on the non-Pro models, and 6.1 inches and 6.7 inches on the Pro models. We've been hearing that Apple plans to ditch LCD on its 2020 iPhones for a while now. Analysts seem adamant that the full 2020 lineup will have AMOLED panels, and a report in Korean media pointed out that Apple will be buying the OLED panels from Samsung and LG. Word is, Samsung will be the main supplier for the Pro models, while LG will be helping out for the non-Pros. The Apple A13 Bionic processor is already extremely powerful. Many would argue that it's being held back by iOS, but the ultimate point is that it provides for super snappy performance and raises the iPhone 11's computational photography to a whole new level. Rumor has it, we have not seen anything yet. In 2020, Apple introduced a new chip built on a 5nm process technology, which supposedly will be significantly more powerful than the A13 Bionic. Whispers through the grapevine say it would bring the iPhone's performance prowess up to MacBook Air levels. Of course, take this with a grain of salt. Even if the processor itself is capable, it still needs to adhere to some limitations, like the fact that it needs to operate on a battery without draining it immediately, and that it's enclosed in a small body, and heat production needs to be managed. What's with the nanometers? Basically, the smaller the distance between the components, the less energy they drain, and the smaller the processor is. So, in terms of battery drain to productive power conversion, the less nanometer, the better. The current A13 is built on a 7nm process, which is pretty impressive as it is. The projected speed boost for the 2020 Apple processors is about 15% over the current generation. On the topic of fingerprint scanners, the rumor mill has been kind of erratic. Some claim that Apple plans to put under the screen Touch ID in the near future. Others insist these plans have been shelved. And we have to say, it doesn't sound very Apple-ish if they put both Touch ID and Face ID on the iPhone. It was always about minimalism, and never about stuffing the iPhone chock full of features. Yet, some unnamed sources allegedly claimed that Cupertino is busy testing in-screen fingerprint tech and looking at options of implementing it. Reasons unknown. A very curious report came out in the past, which kind of rekindled the in-display Touch ID talks. Allegedly, Apple was thinking about producing a special iPhone version just for the Chinese market. This one would have no Face ID and would sport a fingerprint scanner embedded in the display. It's supposed to be a bit cheaper than your regular iPhone and would be positioned to battle giants like Huawei and Xiaomi on their home turf. Interesting for sure, and it sounds like it might be an epic battle. It went by so fast, you couldn't see it. In seriousness, though, Apple is known to not be first in line when it comes to adopting technology, while it's still in its shaky stages. And that's where 5G is: limited coverage, clunky components required to support it, and so on. Reports say that we will see 5G iPhones in 2020 at the earliest, and we've already heard crazy talks that the iPhone 12 lineup might consist of up to 6 different variants, the 4 main models consisting of 2 non-Pro and 2 Pro iPhones, and then 2 variations probably of the Pro models that will have 5G enabled. Recent product line leaks state that 5G suppliers are actually waiting on news from Apple on whether they should amp up production. So, it's very possible that 5G iPhones are, at the very least, being heavily considered. Here we come nearer to the most interesting moment of our review. Price-wise, we are hearing mixed messages. The latest piece of info suggests the iPhone 12, 5.4 inches, and iPhone 12 Max 6.1 inches would start at around $700 minus $800, and the iPhone 12 Pro, 6.1 inches, and iPhone 12 Pro Max 6.7 inches would be available from $999 and $1,099, respectively. It was a review of the latest rumors and leaks about the most anticipated